All right. So that brings me to college football. We heard the stories. We know USC, UCLA decided to pull the plug. We know that Oregon, Washington, the Arizona schools, Utah, and Colorado decided to leave. That left Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal left in the Pac 12, down to the Pac 4. So now Stanford and Cal, the brains that they have decided that, hey, we need to find a way to survive. So what they do, they reached out to the ACC. Lo and behold, they're off to the ACC next year, leaving us with the Tupac. So you got Oregon State and Washington State, Corvallis and Pullman, the Palouse, if you will, sitting there holding on to the conference. Everybody else is gone. They went to court fighting over the money about a month and a half ago. Washington State and Oregon State came out with a big win. They got to be in control of the Pac 12. So, of course, with all that being said, we're talking about a lot of Benjamins. We're talking about a lot of grants just laying around waiting to be claimed. So, Washington, the University of Washington, led an appeal that made it all the way up to the Washington State Supreme Court, right? So, upon this review, the Supreme Court said, get out of here, y'all wasting our time. We don't need to review this. We don't want to review this. Oregon State, Washington State, you got the conference. So I'm guessing there's going to be some kind of appellate review that they're not just going to give up because there's too much money. I've heard up to $400 million, maybe a little bit more than that. So the good news for Washington State and Oregon is that right now they have control of the conference, is that right now they can be the Tupac until at least 2026. So they don't have to rush today to make decisions or try to get to build another conference. Now, with that being said, where does that leave? Rivalries. So the Apple Cup up in the Palouse and over in Seattle has been extended through 2028. So we got 5 more years of the Apple Cup. Praise the Lord. The Civil War. I know they don't call it that no more, but that's what I call it. What they gonna call it? The Platypus Bowl. But anyway, so Oregon and Oregon State are at least playing this next season. So now what happens from there? There's been talks about rumors in a merger with the Mountain West Conference. What does that look like? I doubt that Washington State and Oregon State is trying to bring along Wyoming and Utah State, for example. So, of course, the talk is Boise. The talk is San Diego State, who was supposed to join the Pac 12, or at least we thought they were going to join the Pac 12 before it fell apart. You got Colorado State, UNLV bringing the Vegas market. I don't know where that leaves Reno, aka Nevada. Now, when looking at all this, I wanted to look at this from a historical sense because, back at one point, the Mountain West had TCU, the Mountain West had BYU, the Mountain West had Utah, all 3 in the Big 12 now. They had Boise at the height of their powers that we will probably never see again from the Broncos, right? So what's the best that you can scramble here? Because, if I'm looking at the AAC, for example, I see UTSA, not just because I'm from here, not because I live here. It's not about that, but I'm just looking at TV screens. I'm looking at 1.5 million people with, oh, by the way, by 2030, the projection of 4.5 million people moving in between this San Antonio Austin corridor, right? That's what I'm looking at. Screens. You got North Texas right outside of Dallas. Well, not right outside, but you know what I mean. They're up in Denton. SMU's not an option. They're in the ACC. So that's the next best thing. Is Memphis too far east? Same with Alabama, Birmingham. Now you look at the Sun Belt. Texas State over in San Marcos right up the road. Not really a big market, not really a big name, not really a successful football program, though they're in a bowl game this season. So there's limited options. But the question is, does the Pac-12 or the Tupac, Washington State and Oregon State, they need these schools more than those schools need them. Now, we know that money talks. San Diego State at one point was facing a $34 million buyout from the Mountain West. But since the Pac-12 fell apart, they didn't have to, cross that. So here we are now. What do we do? Gloria Neves, the commander of the Mountain West, doing a great job. Does she tell the Pac-12, no, you need us more than we need you. You come join our brand, even though most of us know that the Pac-12 is the bigger brand, the bigger name. But when the Pac-12 was the bigger brand and bigger name, it also had a UCLA, a USC, Oregon, and a Washington, and some Arizonas. So I don't know, because when I think of Corvallis and I think of the Palouse, as much as I love saying that word, just keeping it honest, it may be time to ride into the sunset and let them die a sad death on their own. From the standpoint that we're starting this new 12-team playoff next year, what does that look like for them? Is a 10-2 Wazoo or a 10-2 Beaver good enough to get a berth in the playoffs? I'd say no, not because I think that, just because of the way we've seen this play out before. So if it's not a playoff bid that you're playing for, what are we doing? Then, if you're the Mountain West, like I said, and you're saying to them, you come join us, not the other way around, even if they come along, that's not a Power 5 conference. So what happens when the dust settles? Is Oregon State and Washington State the newest members to the G5, and everybody knows it but them?